Hello, everybody, welcome back to Road to Master. I hope you're all having an amazing day. We are here going over another game. This one was from a local league. We're done with the Congress now, thank God. We can go on to some more productive games, I think. So yeah, I was white in this situation. My opponent was 1888, which is quite high. This is someone I've not played before, but I know of him. He's very, very strong. So I was cautious. But anyway, let's go into... accuracy. I keep forgetting to do the accuracy. Let's do the accuracy real quick. So I had an accuracy of 75.2 versus my opponent with a 78.4. Okay. Knight F3. Right, that's what we play. And they decide to go for like a fianchetto setup, fianchetto setup with bishop to g7. And then e5, which is very interesting. I'm not too scared of that. Obviously, I can't take it right now because the bishop defends. So I'm just going to go d3. That's what I do, right? At the end of the day, that's what I do. Maybe it's going to turn into some sort of reverse King's Indian with a fianchetto. There's still a lot to go until then, though. But f5, I've never seen this in my whole career of playing chess. Very interesting move. Here there is, well, firstly, what is f5 doing, right? I think the point is to contest the centers, start with maybe some pushes. I wouldn't do that right now, though. But it's similar to a Dutch defense, which is interesting, considering I've not actually played d4, and I'm probably never going to play d4. So, yeah, confusing. I don't think it can be great for black. The computer says it's plus 0.4, so it's not the worst thing in the world, but I wouldn't choose it. And here is an interesting idea of bishop g5. The idea of bishop g5 is that you're hitting the queen, so you need to block it. They can either do this and give up their fianchettoed bishop, which isn't ideal. You can go knight f6, which moves away from the attack on the queen. The problem is potentially you are losing this e-pawn unless there are any tricks involved. I don't think there are, though. So really the only move you would have is knight e7, which doesn't look great, I think. It's not bad. I don't think it's bad. It's not... Usually you want the knight on f6, right? Because it's more developed. Yes, you can argue you're blocking your bishop, but it looks prettier on f6, I think. Especially if you're looking to contest the center as well, right? Which is, I think, the whole point of f5. I'm not really sure, again. So it's not ideal. I decided not to go for that. I stuck with my guns and played knight c3. I say I stuck with my guns. I don't usually play knight c3 in the King's Indian. Because I would rather go to d2, to f1, to h2. We see this plan all the time, right? It's my favorite plan in the game. But I think in this situation, knight c3 is fine. Alternatively, the computer wants us to just contest the center, which I can see. I can very much see. But I decided to go with this to potentially look at e4. And then I've still got the option for the bishop to go to g5, right? They go c6. Another strange move. I think just supporting d5, but there's no reason why you can't just play d5 because the queen covers it. If you really wanted to go for that, the computer actually wants e4, which I can see. Just opening up the bishop. Yes, you potentially lose a pawn. This isn't a target just yet, but it could be in the future. In fact, no, I don't know what I'm on about. The computer hates this for black. This is plus 2.4. Okay, so what went wrong there? Was it taking back? No. Why was the computer suggesting e4 then? I have no idea. I really don't know. Anyway, c6. Castles. Oh, was it e4 in this situation? I don't know what I'm talking about. Castles. And here they just go d5, which is the whole point of playing c6. I mean, they have pawns in the center, right? The only thing we have that is better is our development. We have 3 pieces developed. A 4th very quickly can be developed. If you want to class this rook as developed, sure. But I would rather have it on e1, to be honest. Maybe it can stay on the f file if we want to play f4. Anyway, they have one whole piece developed, right? So at this point, I'm like, we need to break in the center, right? And actually use these pieces for something. Yes, in this situation, there is the option for trading off queens. In fact, probably not, because I would trade off first. Unless they took this way around. No, it still doesn't give me the option. Okay, so trading off would be bad for them. Leaving their king in the center of the board. Not ideal. So they trade once, and then they go d4. Now, I'm fine with d4. d4 looks like it suffocates me a bit. I am not upset by this. Because I sort of want this knight to move anyway. Right, so I'm going to e2. I wasn't playing on this diagonal, so I'm not too bothered. And now we're sort of looking at these pawns a bit, which is sort of exciting, because we have pawn breaks on either side that we can do. Now, c3 as a pawn break isn't particularly appealing, because right now it comes with d3. Let's say they waste a move, and then we play c3. They could potentially play d3, which might be a problem. Not right now, but eventually, maybe, especially if they can get a c4 in as well. I would not feel happy in that situation. So ideally, I would want something blockading d3 so we can break with c3 more safely. Okay, what did they go? Queen c7. Kind of strange. Again, I don't really know why they've done that. Maybe just to push c5, I guess. But you're so far behind on development. I would be slightly concerned as white, to be honest. And here I go knight d2. Apparently a miss. Apparently c3 is the correct move, because now they no longer have d3 ideas. So they would have to take, at which point the knight comes back. And then I'm just happy, right? I'm pretty much fully developed. I can go after this pawn at some point. And you're struggling, I think, as black here. So anyway, I went knight d2. Wrong move, sure, but we'll take it. And knight d2 is looking at both c4 and pushing f4 at the same time. To take with either the rook or the knight, I'd probably... I don't know. Ideally, I would take with the bishop, but I can't do that right now because it's blocked in. Maybe even take with the pawn if we felt fancy. But anyway, they develop finally knight e7, looking to castle, which I think is smart, because you would put the rook immediately on the semi-open file. But at the same time, after something like c3, I do have the check that you need to be careful of when you castle. So that's something to be aware of. I break with f4, hoping to prevent you full stop from castling, right? If we can open this up before you castle, you can't castle across check. So that would be great for us. So they go now or never with the castling, right? I think is logical. The computer doesn't like it, but I think is a very logical move. The problem with that is that it allows knight c4. Now, knight c4 apparently is a miss. You just take. And I guess after bishop takes, then knight c4 comes with a bit more punch, because we've got a discovered attack on the d-pawn, and we are probably actually winning that at some point. I went knight c4 first, because of course I did. I don't know how to do correct move orders. And I am thinking I'm potentially winning one of these pawns, because I've still got this attack. Either way, basically, if they go with something like b5, I would just take. And then, same thing, you know, I'm probably just winning this pawn. I would be very, very happy. They decide to go bishop g4, which is tricky, because now I've got the pin on my queen. I can't move this knight. So I'm probably not going to win this pawn, actually. But maybe we can still make it work. So I go for knight takes, which apparently is the best move. Great move. Only move. And I think I could still be winning a pawn. And the point is that after bishop takes, pawn takes. Yes, you could trade off the rooks anytime, but that doesn't really matter. Queen takes, queen takes. Now, yes, I'm hanging my knight, But at the same time, their queen is hanging, so they have to deal with this and takes and takes. They could try here bishop takes. And then take. But I think this is fine. Queen c4 apparently. Very interesting. And the computer just says this is winning. Like, not even like small winning. Like, this is +6 almost. Completely even on material, which is incredible. I'm guessing some bishop f4 ideas. Maybe e5, and we just try get the bishop on like e5 or something. I don't really know. We'll play it out a bit. Rook takes f8. Oh, and then we're looking at bishop h6 check, I reckon, is the move. Bishop h6. King e8, yeah. Because if you go, well, you have to. You have to. And then rook f1 looks nice. And you're really struggling to defend here. You're really struggling to defend here. Knight d7 does it, covers that square. But then we have queen check, which... Ooh. That is very nice. Anyway, so that's what happens if you take back either way. So they go knight d7, which I think is a very creative solution, actually. You hang this pawn temporarily, and you just claim that I can't really defend it in the long run. And I still can't take this because there is the pin, which doesn't work unless the queen is hanging on e5. And I am slightly stuck here. Slightly stuck here. I don't know how to continue. I think c3 is a part of it, allowing for some checks to escape the pin. But I don't really know. And the problem is they can also take at any time, which doesn't look great. And they also have ideas of queen b6, which isn't great, with some discovered attacks with d3. I'm not too happy with. So what I decide to do, I decide to get rid of this, right? I chop off with check, because I thought if they can do it at any time, that can only be bad for me. So forcing this first can't be a bad thing. And it's a good move. It's not quite the best move, but it's fine, apparently. Rook takes back. And then I finally play c3. c3, inaccuracy, apparently. And I considered e6, which is the best move. Just giving up the pawn and saying you're going to have to waste a move to sort it out, right? But I really did like this check. I really did like the check. Yeah. So where I was worried also about knight f6, which adds another player into the kingside attack. I don't really like it. Apparently, is it knight e5? They like knight e5. And then maybe they're looking at some f3 ideas, which could be a problem. So that looked slightly scary. I felt it gave them a bit of activity. So I went with c3. c3 apparently is just met with d3. And then after queen takes, they take with a tempo, which makes sense. And we don't have any checks to get out of it. So we have to either go to d2 or e3 to still defend the knight. Yeah. c2 apparently also does that. Yeah, because queens can move diagonally as well. Oh no. Oh no. So that's what they should have done. They decided to take instead, which allows some very interesting possibilities. Luckily, all of those possibilities start with queen b3, just to escape this pin. And this kind of forces the king onto a dark square, which is nice for us. King g7 is the best way because you've got more escape squares. And now I really want them to take this pawn. So I can play an e6 with a discovered check on the king. And there is also this really sneaky idea of either knight f4 or knight d4, with the idea of going to e6 for a mega fork. Unfortunately, the bishop covers, which is a shame. However, if we try something like knight f4, which was my candidate move, by the way, and they say waste a move, right? I mean, you could try something like c2 if you really want, or you could take, which just can't be good ever. But say they waste a move. Oops. Knight f4. Yeah, say they waste a move, and we get this. Takes. I'm hitting this knight with check, which can't be nice. Apparently, this is completely winning for black, though, which is insane. Oh, because they've got this, which makes a lot of sense. But there is some threats that need to be considered with the knights hanging with check, which I thought looked interesting, right? Which was why I was heavily considering knight f4. Apparently, knight d4 is slightly better. And the idea is queen takes e5. If knight takes, then we still get this, and then stuff happens. I thought maybe this, but I realized they still have this check now, which isn't great. So I'm glad I didn't play that. Queen takes c3. Oh yeah, that was the reason why. Because they've got rid of the block that allowed us to have this discovered check. So now the double discovered check is looking very, very tasty, right? So that looks scary for them. I spent a lot of time on this move, like so much time. It must have been 30 minutes at least, considering this move. So I was not in a good situation on the clock after this. And I decided with the boring knight takes c3. Very, very boring. And I regret playing this move. I should have gone with my instincts and played a more active move. And that's something I'm trying to work on at the minute is when I have the initiative, actually making the most of it, and not being scared and playing boring stuff. But anyway, it's what I played and we've got to live with it, right? And for all that, I lost a lot of time and I was starting to panic a bit on the clock. They go knight takes e5, which is apparently the best move, but it's scary, right? You've got to know what you're doing because bishop f4, you're walking into one pin, and very, very soon you're going to be walking into a second pin as well, which is so scary. H6 apparently the best move, and the whole point is you're just kicking with g5 next move. And I don't have time to set up this secondary pin. Luckily for me, they played b6, which is so strange and gives a significant advantage to white here. And here I go knight d1. Because I can't really go anywhere else with the knight. And knight d1's a nice square to maneuver with, right? Firstly, they could take, which just puts my rook in a beautiful position. Gets rid of my problem piece, opens up this secondary pin, gets rid of their active bishop. So that would just be amazing for us. The second idea is I want to go to e3 and then go to c4 and add another attacker onto this knight after queen c3, which pins the knight to the king. So I was really happy with knight d1. They go c5. Again, I'm not really sure why. I think it was to open up c6 for this knight. I don't know why they couldn't have done that straight away. Just to add another defender. I go queen I go knight e3. Because there's no need to put this pressure on immediately. I might as well maneuver. And maybe there's some knight d5 ideas while we're at it, right? Bishop c8. Because it was under attack. Right? It's a free tempo. So they free that bishop. I go queen c3. And I'm sure I'm winning a piece, right? How do they defend this? I've got a double pin. I've got this piece coming. I've got this piece coming in. How are they going to defend this? You know? And the computer agrees. This is plus 2.2. Unfortunately, I have about 5 minutes on my clock to finish all of this. And I've got to be very accurate. So it's hard. It's tough. Knight c6. I go rook d1. I was thinking also about bishop f1 to b5 and just taking this to try get rid of one of their defenders. I think that unfortunately is a bit slow. So I go rook d1 hoping for knight d5. Also maybe looking at some knight d5 ideas maybe some rook d7 at some point. I don't really know. But it's active, right? It can't be bad. Bishop e6 just to prevent rook e5. D5, sorry, very needed, I think. And here we go, bishop f1. And that's where I start to make my mistake. B4 apparently is the move to play, which is ingenious. And my coach was talking me through why this is such a good move. So if they take, we'll start with. If they take, we take the knight. We take the knight with check. You're hitting the queen with a fork, and it's defended. They can either take with the queen, at which point you take the knight, or they take with the knight, at which point you take the free queen. So that's if they take. Right, if they ignore, and I don't know what they could do, to be honest. They could try c4, I guess, but c4 is the same as just ignoring it. King g8, apparently the best move. At which point I think you still go b5, which is the idea if they ever ignore it. You go b5, kick out this knight, and this secondary pin is still here, so you just win a piece. So those are the ideas. And if knight takes, by the way, you just take and you win the queen with a fork on the king and the queen with this bishop. So it's just a completely winning move. I didn't even consider it as a possible move, but you know, as soon as you see it, you realize why it works. So I was a bit disappointed I see that, and I play the incredibly lame bishop f1 instead. I don't even know what bishop f1's trying to do. Bishop b5 is so slow, because they can play something like rook e8 and bishop f7 if absolutely needed, I think. Or bishop d7 probably better, and then you take back with the bishop so the queen's still covering. Maybe king f6 if they need it. King h8 apparently the best way to play, which is insane because you've not actually sawed any pins. G5 also works, which is crazy. Inaccuracy. Apparently. G5 is the next best move, so you have to actually play king h8. That's the only move. And why can't king h1 also the only move, really, that keeps your advantage? I don't know why. That's insane. Why can't you go like bishop b5? Bishop b5, queen g7. Wow, what an idea queen g7 is. Wow. Oh, that's insane. So if you can't see the reason behind that, and I don't blame you at all, by the way, the whole point of king h8 and queen g7 is you've sorted out two pins at once, right? So the pin on the queen is done by the bishop, and the pin on the king is done by the queen, which is very important. So you get out of the way of the bishop pin by going queen g7. And by going queen g7 as well, you've put something between your knight and your king, which gets rid of that pin. And because this pin's done by a queen, putting the queen there is not going to be a problem at all. So that's incredible. So why does king h1 then keep our advantage? Why does king h1 keep our advantage? King g8? No, wait, where are we? King h8. Oh, I've lost the move now. King h8, there we go. Why does king h1 keep our advantage? No, apparently not even the best move anymore. The computer keeps changing its mind. No, it says it is the best move. I'm being lied to every time. Rook f7, apparently. I don't know why. A huge mistake. Oh, no. I need to stop listening to the computer, really. I really do. Queen g7, same idea. Yeah, getting rid of the pin. And then rook d6. Rook d6. Hits the bishop. Hits the knight, but also not really because it's covered. Bishop takes a2. Yeah, I can see that. Inaccuracy. Okay, wait. Someone better can analyze this, right? Because the computer keeps lying to me. Anyway, they go queen b8. which I think is a weird move because you've not actually solved any of your problems. King h1, apparently the best move again. I'm going to ignore that. Knight d5, playable. Knight d5 is playable. Is the only non-king move, because I genuinely do not understand these moves. Knight d5. Don't ask me why. The point is, I guess, if they take, you're kicking out the knight this way, right? They want g5 to hit the bishop, forcing bishop takes g5, temporarily removing one pin, and then knight d4. Oh, I think the idea of king h1 is to avoid any knight f3 checks. Ah, that could very well be it. That could be it. Okay, I'm starting to understand now. I'm starting to understand. Which forks the king and the bishop, so you move the bishop to e3 and threaten to take. But then your 2 pins have gone to no pins, right? So they are pretty much free at this point. Still slight advantage for white, but yes. What did I decide to do here? I decided to go knight c4, which is a terrible idea and definitely a rushed one in time trouble, because it just gives them the option to trade off, and now we don't have enough pieces to actually utilize our pins properly, right? Knight d4, we can't really stop. So I try b4, right idea, wrong time. Should have done this 10 moves ago. But yeah, this is just bad. I'm hoping for them to take. They're never going to take. And even if we take, they're just going to take back and nothing's changed. Queen d6, apparently a miss. Knight f3 check? No. Knight e to f3. Oh, wow. That is sneaky. King g2. And then rook takes f4. What? That is insane. That is insane. And if you take, then check is coming. No, not check. You can't check there. That's not how queens move. Queen takes f4. And then these checks are coming. Rook takes d4. Queen takes h2 check. And you can't take this knight because then check and you win the queen. So they have to go downwards. At which point nasty stuff happens, I guess. King f2, apparently. No, what? Queen g1. Oh, you do check. You do check. Then king e2, and then queen. You can't go queen e1. Oh, you go queen g2, king d1. No, yeah, king d1. Why can't you go upwards? Bearing in mind the rook is still hanging, by the way. So c takes, queen takes, check. Queen d3. Why can't you check? Oh, because the knight covers. Oh, no. Okay, we can see this is nice for black, right? We can see this is nice for black. Queen d6. We take, and then we allow this tactic, right? Because we were low on time. Yeah. Knight to f3. I would love to take back with the queen. Unfortunately, you cannot, because this comes with check. And then there's ideas of rook takes bishop, like we saw as well. So we have to go king g2. Queen takes d1. And then we get the exchange by doing these checks. Unfortunately, this is not enough. We might be able to pick up some loose pawns, but they're going to do the same and eventually force off the queens. And in some situations, this may be enough to hold, but this is not one of them. As we can see, very good technique from my opponent. I tried to defend the best I can, but at a certain point, you're just going to run out of moves. Rooks are powerful, powerful pieces. Here they win, and I resign. So, what did we learn from this game? I learned to trust my gut a bit more. What was the key move, I think? Not knight d2. Knight takes c3, I think, was a key move. yes, knight takes c3, I think was the tipping point, really. Using so much time on that gave me a huge disadvantage when I needed it, right? Because I needed the time to calculate all of this, because there was a lot to calculate, and I just didn't have that. If I trusted my gut, knight f4 is playable. Knight d4, even better, which, to be honest, I wasn't considering. I would have played knight f4. And I knew taking on c3 was passive, but I was scared. And yes, so I am working on using my initiative better, and actually not being scared of stuff. I'm trying to actually calculate things properly, and not be scared of ghosts, and play with the initiative, right? Because that's how you win games. You know, if you want to draw and lose, then you play the safe moves. If you want to win, if you want to crush, I think you've got to use what you've got when you've got it, you know, and playing safe is fine when there's scary things, actually scary things. But when you have the initiative, you've got to be able to run with it, right? So it was a fun game, and I think I was happy that I got to a point where I was better against such a strong opponent, and it was just a shame I wasn't able to convert it. Anyway, we have some more League games coming up, and I've just posted a short video as well on the YouTube Shorts, so check that out. Stay tuned. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Please like if you liked. Please subscribe if you really liked, and I'll catch you guys all later. Bye-bye.